Late at night, the lights across Dubai still look perfect. Towers glowing, highways moving, deals still being signed. From the outside, nothing feels different. But inside boardrooms, something has quietly changed. Companies that once chose Dubai without thinking are now asking a second question, not should we be in Dubai, but should we also be in Saudi Arabia? That one extra question is where everything begins to shift. Because the change isn't loud. There are no empty offices, no sudden collapse. Just small decisions happening behind closed doors. A team moved, a contract requirement updated, a new headquarters license approved somewhere else. And slowly, the center of gravity starts moving. Here's the part most people miss. This isn't just competition. It's a complete redesign of how business flows in the Middle East. A $500 billion strategy, not just to grow Saudi Arabia, but to pull influence away from where it has lived for decades. So the real question isn't whether Saudi Arabia is rising. That's obvious. The real question is far more uncomfortable. If companies can no longer rely on Dubai as the only gateway to the region, what happens to a city built on being exactly that? Dubai didn't become the region's business capital by size. It did it through efficiency. It created a system where companies could operate smoothly, quickly, and with fewer complications than surrounding markets. Low taxes, modern infrastructure, fast setup processes, and global connectivity turned Dubai into a platform. It wasn't just a city, it was a base for operations across the Middle East, Africa, and South Asia. Financial firms settled into districts like Dubai International Financial Center. Logistics companies used its ports and airports, and multinational corporations built regional headquarters there. For years, this worked almost perfectly. Dubai became the default choice. If a company wanted access to the region, it didn't debate it, just chose Dubai. That default status is what made the city powerful. Not just growth, but predictability. But predictability only lasts until an alternative becomes strong enough to be taken seriously. And that's exactly what has started happening. Saudi Arabia is not entering this competition slowly. It is accelerating it. Through its long-term transformation plan, the country is investing hundreds of billions into infrastructure, business ecosystems, and global partnerships. But more importantly, it is changing the rules. New policies now encourage or in some cases require companies to establish regional headquarters in Saudi Arabia if they want access to major government contracts. This is critical because Saudi Arabia is not just another market. It is the largest economy in the Arab world, with massive state spending and long-term development projects. For companies, this creates a practical decision: stay fully in Dubai for convenience, or build presence in Saudi Arabia to stay competitive. Increasingly, they are choosing the second option, not abandoning Dubai but splitting focus. And once focus splits, influence follows. The scale of Saudi ambition is visible in projects like NEOM, a multi-billion-dollar development designed to attract global talent, innovation, and investment. But these projects are not just about construction. They are signals that Saudi Arabia is building a future where it is not dependent on external hubs. Alongside mega projects, incentives like tax breaks, simplified regulations, and funding support are pulling companies inward. Global firms across finance, consulting, and technology have already secured licenses to operate in Riyadh. Some have moved executives, others have expanded teams. And while many still keep offices in Dubai, the balance is changing. Dubai is no longer the only command center. It is now part of a multi-city system. This is where the system itself becomes important. Dubai's model depends on being a central hub. It creates value by hosting companies that operate across borders. Saudi Arabia's model combines that hub idea with something stronger: local demand. It offers access to a large internal market, government-backed projects, and long-term investment pipelines. That combination is powerful, because companies don't just want efficiency, they want growth. And growth often follows money. If major contracts, infrastructure projects, and investment opportunities are concentrated in one country, companies will move closer to that center. Not all at once, but gradually. And that gradual movement is enough to reshape the map. The shift doesn't look dramatic. It looks quiet. A regional CEO relocates. A finance team splits between cities. A company opens a second headquarters. Each decision seems small, but together they create a pattern. Decision-making spreads out. Influence becomes shared. Dubai's role changes from being the single hub to being one of several important centers. That is not collapse, but it is a loss of exclusivity. And for a city built on being the first choice, losing that position matters more than losing numbers. Because once companies start comparing locations instead of defaulting, competition becomes permanent. There is also a financial layer driving this shift. Saudi Arabia is using large-scale public investment to build entire industries. Its sovereign wealth fund is backing projects across technology, tourism, entertainment, and infrastructure. This creates long-term demand that companies want to be part of. At the same time, global economic conditions have changed. Higher interest rates, tighter financing, and increased competition mean companies are more careful about where they invest. They look for places where growth is supported by strong local demand and government spending. Saudi Arabia fits that description. Dubai still offers efficiency and connectivity, but the financial gravity is becoming more distributed. And when capital spreads out, so does influence. The human impact of this shift is already visible. Professionals who once saw Dubai as the automatic career destination are now looking at Riyadh and other Saudi cities as serious options. Recruiters are offering competitive packages to attract talent. Companies are adjusting salaries and benefits to encourage relocation. This creates movement. Not a sudden migration, but a steady flow of skilled workers exploring new opportunities. For Dubai, this means competition for talent is increasing. The city still offers lifestyle advantages, but it can no longer rely on being the only attractive option. And when talent has choices, companies follow those choices. There are deeper layers behind this competition. One is policy power. Saudi Arabia is actively using regulations to influence where companies operate. Another is scale. A larger population and economy provide long-term demand that is difficult to ignore. Then there is perception. For years, Dubai represented modernity in the region. Now, Saudi Arabia is reshaping its image, opening sectors, hosting global events, and presenting itself as a future-focused economy. These layers work together. Policy creates direction. Investment builds infrastructure. Perception attracts attention. And together, they create momentum that is difficult to reverse. The breakdown, if it happens, will not look dramatic. There will be no moment where Dubai suddenly loses its status. Instead, it will happen in small decisions. A company moves its regional CEO to Riyadh. Another shifts part of its finance team. A third sets up a second headquarters to qualify for contracts. Each decision seems minor, but together, they change the map. Influence begins to spread. Decision-making becomes less centralized. And over time, Dubai's role shifts from being the single hub to being one of several important centers. That is not collapse, but it is change. And for a city built on being the default choice, even small changes matter. Globally, this kind of shift has happened before. Economic centers rise, share influence, and evolve. What makes this case different is the speed and scale. Saudi Arabia is not slowly building relevance, it is accelerating it with massive investment and clear strategy. Dubai, on the other hand, is not standing still. It continues to grow, innovate, and attract businesses. But the environment around it has changed. It is no longer operating without serious competition. And in a competitive system, even strong players must adapt continuously to maintain their position. The realization is not simple. Saudi Arabia is not destroying Dubai in one move. It is challenging it step by step, creating alternatives, offering incentives, pulling parts of the system inward. And over time, that changes behavior. Companies diversify their presence. Talent spreads across cities. Investment flows in multiple directions. Dubai remains powerful, but it is no longer alone at the top. The story is not about collapse. It is about transformation under pressure. And transformation always comes with uncertainty. So here's the real question. When a region that once depended on one dominant hub begins to build multiple centers of power, what happens next? Does Dubai adapt and stay ahead, or does it slowly share its influence with rising competitors? Tell me what you think. Is this the beginning of a long-term shift, or just another phase in regional growth? And if you want more deep, fact-based breakdowns like this, stay with me. Because the biggest changes in the world rarely happen suddenly. They happen quietly, one decision at a time.